there I am on Thursday. Let's go to this story now here briefly. Thursday, I get a text from someone who I used to work with at ESPN being like, man, what a sport you cover. And I'm like, well, this could mean a million different things. What exactly are you talking about? And he writes Bryce Mitchell. And I had no idea what he was talking about. And so I go on Twitter very quickly, and I see this clip of Bryce Mitchell on the critically acclaimed Arkansanity podcast with former UFC fighter Rolly Delgado, talking about how Hitler was a good guy before the meth. We always have to mention that, and I didn't know, actually. I learned something while watching that clip. I didn't know that Hitler was a meth user. I didn't know this was public knowledge, but I guess through his research that he conducted, he found that out, and also found out that he was a good guy, kind of guy that you'd want to go fishing with, and that all he wanted to do was wipe the Jews out of Germany who were turning everyone gay. And it was just like, it was a clip where you're like, to me, as a Jewish person, I listen to this and I say, oh, well, this is just Bryce Mitchell being Bryce Mitchell. This is a sign of the times. It's open season. You could say whatever you want on Jews in particular over the past year and a half, and this is all good. I didn't really honestly feel any sort of way about it because, I considered the source, and I've enjoyed my chats for the most part with Bryce Mitchell up until the last one. And the last one to me was just pure lunacy. And the reason why he's never been back on the show was because of how he acted in that chat. And I said in the aftermath of the chat, like, I enjoy when people with different perspectives come on the show and we can sort of, have a chat, have a debate, have a conversation, an argument, whatever. But there has to be some sanity involved. And when he asked me before that chat, like, is this going to be live? And I was like, yeah, of course, it's always live. It made me think in the back of my mind, like, why is he asking this question? And then when the shot starts with him just on his couch, clearly to not tip anyone in the back off, and then all of a sudden when he realizes he's on, he goes to, the shot with the guns and starts talking about Sandy Hook being a hoax and all this stuff. I'm like, I'm good. You can spout this nonsense off somewhere else. I don't need to have you on. And so, like, yeah, I felt some sort of way about that, and is what it is. I don't have to agree and like every single person that fights in the UFC or even that comes on the show. I've told the story of Larry King interviewing Yasser Arafat, and I thought it was so amazing that two people from different backgrounds with different ideologies and beliefs can come together and have a civil, professional conversation. That's journalism, in my opinion. This felt like he was trying to, dupe us. He was trying to pull one over on us. So in any event, that's why he hasn't been on. And he says this, and I'm like, yeah, this guy doesn't think Sandy Hook happened, thinks that the government was involved or some nonsense like that. So, I consider the source. And I said afterwards, each and every day, it just continues to baffle me how people associated with MMA continue to embarrass us, the sane ones who like this sport, who have been watching this sport for some kind of, we have to almost answer for it and spend time dissecting these things, talking about these things, because it's some of the biggest names in the sport doing things that are either embarrassing or reprehensible or low class or whatever you want to say, just not fun things. Like I want to have conversations about Israel and Nasruddin and MVP and what's next for this guy and that guy and the fights this weekend. Not this nonsense. And it's the type of stuff that doesn't really fly in other sports and other sports leagues because there are repercussions. But there are no repercussions when it comes to UFC fighters. And that was a decision made several years ago, around 2016, and we've gone over this time and again, where the UFC just decided, like, hey, in the past we would punish, someone like a Miguel Torres who tweeted out a rape fan joke that was a quote from a show, Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and got cut as a result of that. Or Frank Mir, who lost his job as a WC commentator because he said he was going to kill Brock Lesnar in the cage in a fight. Or someone like Matt Mitrione, who on this show made a poor taste remark about Fallon Fox, the transgender fighter. He was punished for that. And so time and again in the early days, in the early 2010s, people would get reprimanded. But, once freedom of speech or your stance on this type of speech became like a badge for your political views or your political stance. They dropped all of that. And so I said afterwards, nothing's going to happen, and I don't even want something to happen because I don't feel like we should be rooting for people to lose their jobs based on these stupid things. They're cage fighters, they're sportsmen, they're athletes. Like, God, do your thing, provide for your family. It doesn't affect me whether you fight in the UFC or not. I don't need to have everyone in the UFC believe in what I believe in or be on the same page as me as far as, morality or politics or religion. I don't care. So I'm not going to campaign for this guy to be punished or lose his job. And I didn't think anything was going to happen. And the bar has been set so low as far as responses are concerned. I mean, just look at like when Connor's civil trial came to an end and the jury involved said that he was responsible for the sexual assault. Dana White got defensive when asked about whether or not he had any sort of comment. He got defensive about it. This is the face of his organization. You don't get defensive. You respond. You're asked a question, you respond. And so I was actually pleasantly surprised that at least 3, 4, 5 hours later, after the Power Slap event, there's Dana White at the press conference, old school Dana White, visibly upset, visibly bothered, calling it one of the dumbest, if not the dumbest thing that he had ever heard since being president of the UFC way back in 2001, visibly upset. And I tweeted, kudos to him. A swift, a conclusive, a very clear-cut message that he does not agree with this, that this type of, rhetoric doesn't represent him or the company, etc. I said it was appreciated. But then you listen to the rest of the press conference, and it becomes the same old, same old. And then you take a step back and you unravel the whole thing. And it's very clear, at least to me, that the Dana White that was sitting up there at the press conference on Thursday afternoon, reading off a sheet like he's reading the bonuses, after an event, 6 million, 45, this, that was TKO Dana. That was Dana White, who is the president of a publicly traded entity within a major company known as TKO. That was Dana White, who afterwards people are like, he's just doing what his bosses told him. Yeah, you're fucking right, he was. Yeah, you're right. There's a pecking order. Ari Emanuel, Mark Shapiro, who both happen to be Jewish. Yeah, of course they're not going to want to be associated with stupidities like Hitler was a good guy and he was just trying to rid Germany of the Jews who were trying to turn everyone gay. Yeah, of course they shouldn't want to be associated with that. And of course, there are people out there coming out of the woodwork who said they believe in this type of thing, and it goes on and on and on and on. And of course, everyone has the empowerment now to say all this kinds of craziness, and they're drawn to the UFC because this is the type of place that goes unchecked. This is the type of place that doesn't get bothered. So that was the TKO Dana reading off the sheet saying, "Oh yeah, I'm upset, I'm disgusted, blah blah blah." But then you saw the real Dana White show up 10 minutes later when he says, the beauty of this sport, the beauty of this business, only in America can you actually, see, only in our sport, only in our company can you see this Nazi Hitler lover get his ass whooped. You could pay money. You could pay $79.99 to see this guy get his ass kicked. Isn't that great? Isn't it great that you can actually buy pay-per-view and watch this guy, get this guy who loves Hitler, who wants to go fishing with Hitler? You can watch him get his ass kicked only here. And that's how he really feels. That's how he really feels. Because if he truly does not want to be associated, freedom of speech essentially just says that the government can't come to your house and arrest you for saying stupid shit like this, which they can't. That's the Second Amendment. Every company has every right to say, we don't want to be associated with this. We don't want to employ this type of person. We don't want to make any money. We don't want to make a dime off of this type of person. We don't want you, our public, our loyal public, to pay pay-per-view dollars to watch this type of person because he does not represent our beliefs. He does not represent us. We have sponsors who have to, answer to their bosses or their, shareholders or people who invest in them. Wait a second. You're sponsoring the sport that says they're okay with this type of rhetoric? You're okay with that? On the week where we were celebrating 80 years since the Nazi death camps, which I visited in 1999, We're liberated. This is the type of stuff that you're okay with. Oh no, here, even in WWE, which historically has been the lowest of the low when it comes to this stuff. Historically, they were the place that would capitalize on this shit with the likes of Sergeant Slaughter becoming, a Saddam Hussein sympathizer. That's what even they move away from this. I can assure you in WWE, they would have gotten rid of Bryce Mitchell for saying this. Here, it's like, come here. Come watch him get his ass whooped. That's how he really feels about all this. And I'll tell you why. Ultimately, I'll tell you why. Because if they do something to Bryce Mitchell on Thursday, they have to do something to Conor McGregor on Friday. And they don't want to do that. So when Conor McGregor is out there tweeting the N-word for no reason, I still can't understand why. When he's out there insulting Khabib for no reason, there's no juice on this feud anymore. And his family and his religion and his lineage that does no good for anyone, they don't want to do anything. That isn't enough? Each and every day, more and more people embarrassing themselves. And each and every day, more and more people, showing their true colors. Now, that doesn't take away from the good people. Trust me on this, there are way more good people in this sport than bad people. There are way more good eggs than bad eggs. But you would like to see once the top organizations say, not here. There is a line. And that shit crossed the line. And so as a result, X, Y, and Z is going to happen. You decide. That's the same thing I said when he was caught on camera doing what he did a couple years ago. It's not on us to decide. We don't run your company. You decide what that is. And by doing nothing, you've told us your stance. And so that's the stance. And I think that's coward stuff. Come watch it here. All right, fine. We will watch it here. We will cover it. We knew that was the stance. Trust me, I've seen the stance over the last year plus and then some. None of this was new. For a minute there, I'm watching it. I'm like, holy shit, something's changed. Nothing changed. Absolutely nothing changed. Thanks for watching this video. Before you go, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for us. Also, give us a thumbs up, leave a nice comment. These things go a long way. And while you're here, do check out the rest of the channel. We've got live shows and full interviews, clips, and a whole lot more. We're doing big things here, and we appreciate your support very much.